السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خير for your invitation. And I'm going to address this issue of the family, the roles, from a bit of a different perspective. Usually when we talk about this, it is a reminder for the brothers and the sisters who are parents. Guys, let's fix things, let's get things working. We're having these issues, these problems. How about we change ourselves? It's typical, standard. And of course, it's important to focus on those who are already parents, those who have families. And we all know how we are affected by our environment. And to be honest, traveling the world today, it's pretty much very, very similar. Not the same, but similar. Having very, very similar challenges all over the world. The only thing that might be different is the environment sometimes might be conducive towards fixing things or dealing with things in a different way. So challenges, though, that were faced as families, Muslim families today, are in Pakistan, they're in Bangladesh, they're in India, they're in Saudi Arabia, they're in Qatar, they're everywhere. And that is due to the effects and the spreads of social media. And that's why these people are called influencers, because they influence you. And the human brain is such, and the nafs of a human being is such that, believe it or not, even like these ads that you see on the highway, even catching a glimpse of that, it can actually influence you. You know that? And that's why they're put there, right? Because you're like, well, I'm going 60 miles an hour on the highway. What's the point of having this ad on the street? Because each corporation has psychologists behind it, and they study on how to influence people so they can maximize their profit and purchasing. So they're not done haphazardly, they're done with purpose. And actually, this knowledge has been available to them since the early 1900s, before First World War. Okay, when they wanted to get, for example, women to smoke, to have this huge population, because it was very aib, it was very bad from a culture perspective, and we're talking about America, for women to smoke. But it's huge market that's not tapped. So it's how do we tap into it? It was a very, very simple method that they've used. And what they did is during the 4th of July parade, they basically dressed these pretty women up as the Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, and they gave them smokes, and they're smoking while parading, on these big cars. I don't know if you've ever seen the 4th of July parade. And that basically somehow started the normalization of women smoking, right? But it was done by Sigmund Freud's cousin, who was also a strong psychologist, quite understanding of, of how the brain works and experimental psychology. And they tapped in. And 100 years later, you can see that where it's gone. So there's challenges everywhere. Everything affects us. And most of the lectures are obviously about damage control. Okay, guys, we need to fear Allah. We need to change. We need to Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. We need to change ourselves and so on. I think today, in the short time that we have, I will address the younger generation. And I know maybe they're not here, but maybe a lot of you are parents. We got some of the young boys sitting on here. Hopefully they'll remember what I'm saying. Because we have to break that generational trauma. Someone has to wake up at one point and be like, enough. I can't say that my family or your family that we're going to fix this problem in ourselves. But we start with raising awareness and educating, and then hopefully at one point we break the cycle. Because people have been affected and damaged. Yeah, of course you can make tawbah and come back. But the reality is that the environment is still going to push you and going to trigger you. And it's a very, very difficult struggle that we are dealing with. So it's like, imagine having a building that's nicely built, and then you demolish, you break it, and then you take those same pieces and build it back up again from those same material, prime material, right? There'll be a lot of cracks in it. You can probably put it together. It's quite a lot of work though. You can probably, separate the metal and the cement and whatever, put all together with some extreme effort, but it'll look a bit different. It's cracked. There's always going to be water leaking through it, isn't it? So that's kind of like the human psychology. And of course, if there's a strong earthquake or something or storm, it's going to go through it. So we can fix, there is damage control that we can do in our communities, but it's not simple, right? Like, for example, when you deal with like coke addicts, porn addicts, right? People say that's it. You think you just unplug and you're good to go for the rest of your life. It's not. Even when we look at the Sahaba, the Prophet ﷺ, the ones who experienced Jahiliyyah, sometimes it would catch up with them. And the Prophet ﷺ say, while I'm amongst you, you're still doing this, right? He would chastise them. We look at the Prophet ﷺ, and his early seerah, we find that he was protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from many, many things. For example, there was a party or a wedding that was taking place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to fall asleep. He didn't allow him to go and be exposed to some of these things. Now, there was things happening, by the way, in that society as well. A lot of people think that they were just protected, everything was good. I wish I would have lived at that time. Not really. There were a lot of fitan as well. But what happened is with the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, maybe it's something that we might not, I hope we do, but in our lifetime we might not see, is that they changed the whole environment, right? Especially when they took over Mecca, Fathul Mecca and everything. It was pretty much a reset of the system. It was a big change, right? Khalid bin Walid goes and destroys the last idol standing, right? It's a big change. Like there was some cleanup, some major, cleanup and maintenance that was done to the environment, which probably we're not going to see in our lifetime. So how do you deal with that, right? That kind of damage control. It's not easy. People think, brother, we should just do this, right? Fear Allah. And there's people fear Allah, but فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah as much as you can. But then you look at other people don't fear Allah. You might fear Allah. This Jama'ah might fear Allah. But then you step outside of here and you're like, people, they don't care. They don't even believe in Allah, right? So then how do you deal with that? So I guess what we need to look at, maybe the youngsters, the new generation that you guys are raising, maybe they can break that cycle. Maybe they can be aware of what's around them and how they can attempt to fix it and fix themselves. So I'll address boys and girls, men and women, because this is about family. So a family is made up of husband and wife, and then they have children, and that's your family, an extensive family, and generations come after that. But a family is actually built before the concept of marriage. And there's a need for a fundamental understanding of what is a husband and what is a wife. I think this is where we're going wrong at the basics. And indeed, it should be part of the tarbiyah. I don't think there's any Islamic school that teaches young boys how to be good husbands. Like, why would they want to know and learn? Because they're already learning how not to be a good husband by watching TikTok and Instagram and all this rubbish. So they think, like they ask me, a lot of parents be like, when should I talk to them about like puberty and all that? I'm like, yesterday, because they're already being told and conditioned. And the ones who are doing the conditioning, they understand that. So for example, again, we need to be evidence-based, right? So in the curriculum, as early as year 3, and even earlier now, they're talking about me and the world. Like they'll use very general labels and statements in terms of, so when you look at maybe like what comes in the agenda, Oh, what are you studying tomorrow, Beta? Oh, me and the world around me. Wow, that's very nice. But actually, what's happening when you go deep, and I've had the chance of looking at the curriculum many times as I was a school principal for many years. And I remember like 10 years ago in the Muslim countries, I was already like arguing with people. I was like, look, this is coming. It's there already. You're talking about Muslim countries. What about non-Muslim countries? At least 30 years ago, it was already been planned. Okay? So they're being told that you don't even really have to be a husband. Like, what is this husband and wife, business? Like, it's partners now. So the labels change, right? Becomes very neutral. And it can accommodate anything. So as early as, I think, year 3 here, they are already being quite explicit. I know in your neighbors just up north, it's very explicit. Extremely explicit in the curriculum. To the point that, parents will push back for some time, then they get tired. They realize that nothing happens, and they just kind of let it go. So why do they hit so low year 3 or year 2 sometimes? Because they know that that's where it's easy to change, easy to mold them. I mean, even for us right now, if we see some fitna we're exposed, we'll be affected. It will affect your iman. You're probably going to miss your fajr tomorrow. You're going to like be low for like a week or so till you get yourself back up, right? Like it affects you. Honestly, like you walk on the street and you see something, you're just like, my God, Ya Allah. Right? And you feel the effect of that, isn't it? You feel it on your rizq, you feel it on your iman, you feel it on everything. And you're a grown man. What about a 7 or 8-year-old child? Right? And it's, again, not done haphazardly. It's done with strategic planning. So curriculums are based on strategic plans, on visions. Like they have a 2020 vision they had, 2030 vision. There's always strategic planning. Part of that is you'll have the healthcare system, you'll have economy, businesses, and so on. You'll have education, of course. You have tourism, right? Very, very mainstream economies that are driving the culture. So their plan, nothing happens. There's always, 10-year plan. If you ever take like coaching or management strategies, they always ask you like, what do you see yourself in 5 years? Right? What do you see yourself in 10 years? That's exactly how these people do it. They're very, very good at it. It's, by the way, the documents are available. You can look in all these mainstream think tank sites that they have. Actually, you can access these documents and you can see them. Okay? Like United Nations, UNESCO, all these, you can actually access some of their strategies and their plans to understand. And part of them are these, right? To basically, create a family is it really a family? Can we really call it a family? The nuclear family or whatever you might want to call it. So in order for us to stop that in our communities anyway, and it's our right to raise our children as we want to, right? As long as they obey the law, right? Like, honestly, like, from a constitutional perspective, like, what are you doing wrong if you pay your taxes, you're obeying the law, you're not a criminal, you're not stabbing anyone, not punking anyone? What are you doing wrong? I don't agree with this. I just want my kids to marry this way and that way and have children. So this is my right. Right? Now they're trying to tell you that no, it's not. They're not really your kids. What do you mean our kids? I fed them. The woman carried them for 9 months, isn't it? And you were by her side, feeding her. So how come it's not your children anymore, right? So these are the things that we have to oppose in a peaceful manner, of course, no doubt, right? To be politically correct. But we have the right to. We have the right to educate ourselves, to filter what comes in our curriculum, in our houses, like, right? You're not going to allow things that you don't want to in your house. Like, why would I allow someone to come in my house and sleep in my bed? Why would I allow someone to come and eat my food? I control who comes in my house, isn't it? Why? Because I'm paying those bills. Because I worked hard, because I paid my education, I've done my taxes, and I've done all these things. It doesn't make sense that I have no control now over the things that I've invested in and broke my back for 20 years, right? Not to cheat. I didn't take shortcuts. I didn't do what criminals and gangsters do. I broke my back and really suffer, and you can see, people, the white hairs show for it, right? And the dark circles under their eyes, and they've tried and worked hard. But now people tell you, no, you have no control over this. It's not true. It's not right. It's hypocritical. So we want to teach our young men and women how to be men and women. And what do we follow? What kind of curriculum or what kind of directions do we take? We have a direction. That's what we believe. That's why we're here. That's how we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have dedicated our lives to stay away from the haram and all the pleasures of life, supposedly, because we believe that this is you can say the curriculum, right? This is our constitution, right? If everyone else has something, like, this is ours. We believe in it. There's no voting. You don't vote for this, man. Like, this is it, right? So we base it on that, which is very clear. The Prophet ﷺ said, I left you, upon this. It's like clear, like between the night and day. It's very, very clear. There's no, we don't have confusions in Islam. People will be like, oh, there's a difference of opinion between Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa. There's no confusion, though. We're not confused. We are not a community. If anyone in this world is not confused, shouldn't be, it's clear, is the Muslims, man. Right? We hold on to that deen, even though it's hot to hold on these days, but we're not confused. We know what we need to do. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Right? So, if we teach our children from now to be proud, for example, of young men, young boys, be proud to be a man. Don't listen. Don't listen to what others say, to the point that they're now trying to make you confused that, are you a man or not? Or you're wearing a light color. Maybe there's something inside of you that's inclining towards the other side. Maybe there's a girl stuck inside her. Imagine saying that to a young boy. Can he get confused? 100% he can get confused. Yes. Especially at that age. Yes, he can. I have clients who get confused even in the 20s. And they have this gender and body dysmorphia, which is an issue, right? So, yes, they can get confused. But we need to teach them that, no, you're a man. Okay, you like a bit a color, a certain color. Hi, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ sometimes, had certain colors. So what? You're still a man. All right? You're a man. Act like a man. Talk like a man. Walk like a man. Take the responsibility of a man. And for the girl, some girls, I was at school, and some girl, she's like, I like cars. And teacher's like, well, maybe there's a boy inside of you. Because suppose only boys like cars. There's a lot of girls who like cars, man. What's wrong with liking a car? Right? And then they get confused. And then they change. And then they go on hormone blockers and I don't know, all these crazy stuff. And then you see people changing. And even when you change, with all due respect, you're not going to be a man, isn't it? You're not going to be male. You can try to be a man. You're not going to be a male. It's just the way it is. You can't. You just can't. So I was having an interesting discussion. I met my brother today. He's a non-Muslim. He studies in the University of Birmingham. Haven't seen him for a long time. So we sat for coffee and we had an interesting discussion on this subject. And people are getting cued on. He's a non-Muslim and he was talking. He's like, I don't want. He's not married. He's in early 20s, young man. He's like, I don't want to follow this. I want to be a man. And, he's got obviously his girlfriend, right? He said, but I want to marry her or whatever, but I want her to be a mother. And we were discussing, because he's had a little, and he was saying it doesn't matter what you're doing, trying to be like a man, because all I care about is, are you going to be a good wife and mother? And are we going to be able to synergize? We're not competing. See, that's another thing that the world is trying to get us at. Men against women. Fight. Who's going to be the better? Come on. Fight. and telling the women, see, these men, they're really abusing their power and they're enjoying the world. And in order for you to also get a piece of that cake, guess what? You also have to be a man. Right? Because that's the only way you can kind of succeed in this world that is really, it's dog eats dog. It's tough. And to be able to succeed, to hustle, like I don't think there's like, are there any women gangsters in Birmingham? I think there's something else, right? But like you have to become, and some sisters have now tried to, because and it's not a joke, it's just an example that you want to succeed in that field, which is not, you shouldn't, but it's just now a lot of sisters are talking like that and are behaving like that to the point that it's scary. When they open their mouth and they talk to you, you're like, whoa, is that a bruv? And some have gone, I have cases where some have gone so far to inflict violence on their family members, men, like they'll beat their fathers and their husbands. It's come to that point. And you're just like, what's going on? So what's happening is now they're adopting those characteristics that basically you can kind of succeed on the streets. It's a rough place out there. And not everyone can succeed there. You have to be very, very rough. And roughness and that kind of assertiveness and control of establishing your dominance and conflict resolution is a masculine trait. Now, of course, there's haram within that. I'm not talking, but that concept itself is a very masculine frame. It's always been. Wars and conflict for thousands of years. That's just, I'm not saying that's right in how it's happened in the history, but it's always been very, very masculine. So now you have women stepping into that field and they're losing their identity. And because they're pushing, okay, and there's a lot of push, now some of the men are crossing over, right? Because there will be weakness within the man. Don't think that men are just like solid. No. So now they're becoming more feminine. Now the husband's becoming a wife and the wife a husband, if that's still kind of how it works. And people are confused. So for our children, we have to make it clear that there's no confusion. This is this and this is that. And we need to teach them from the beginning that girls have to be girls and feminine. And that it is beautiful to be so. They're not missing out on something. They're actually doing what they're supposed to do. And if they are able to internalize and realize that they will enjoy being women. And it's a beautiful thing. And that men are supposed to do manly things. And it's not a competition, because the two come together and there's this polarity. And then they synergize and then they work together well. But right now it's everyone's at each other. Everyone wants to be something different and there's huge confusion. That's what we need to focus on when it comes to building a family. Just the basic roles. We're not even talking about children yet. We're talking about what happens before the marriage, right? The training, the awareness, the programs. Like, I'm sorry, if we're having a crisis of masculinity, we shouldn't, I'm not saying it's haram or something, but we shouldn't be teaching our children to sew or knit or something like that's very, is it really needed? And if we're having a crisis of femininity, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be teaching the girls now, like boxing. Because now you find this, mashallah, and this boxing, and competing, and it can knock you out. I'm not saying that they shouldn't know how to fight or defend. Like, I taught my girls, like, if someone grabs you, like, kick him properly. But that doesn't mean they have to compete and build muscles and raise their testosterone. You know what I mean? To the point that they're jacked, It's sad, it's scary, man. Looks very bad. Looks like a man, She'll grab you, lift you up and throw you, And but you see, it affects, even the language. The voice now changes. The way they walk has changed. Okay? Because the body adapts. There are many feminine, and the sisters will come very harshly back. Should I not know how to defend myself? No. Your father should teach you how to defend yourself. Plus, that's something that should be upon your father and your brothers, that they should, make sure that they... And by the way, you should not really be in a situation where you're outside by yourself that you need to be in. Islamically, it's always preemptive, right? Women are always somehow protected, isn't it? Unless you really, really want to look for trouble. But hey, maybe one day you're with your family, I don't know. You walk on the street and maybe something can happen. I'm not saying you're going for a restaurant. It could happen. But is that the main focus? But it seems that no, because guys do it. We have to do it too. I'm a bad girl. Boom, right? Boxing, the videos, the Rocky, songs and all that, right? The Nike commercial. Isn't Nike focusing on that? You see that, right? Look at what they're doing. And they have to have the hijabi girl, of course. It's a must, right? And then the sisters are sitting there looking like, wow, because they're influenced. So first thing I'm going to do is go pick up a Nike hijab and probably go and line up for a boxing, And they'll be like, the first hijabi powerlifter and the first, boxer. And it's like, wow. But it's like, yeah, know how to, if you have to defend yourself, okay. But is that what your aim is? Because you have to prove yourself. Prove what? That you can do it as good as a man. Now you have the guys who are also like, I can be a good mother and stay at home and, this and that. So it's blurred. It's confusing. We don't need that. You have to be happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. And no matter what the world says to you. And that's again the influence, right? Because people make you feel bad. Right? If all of you start talking towards me right now, brother, your lecture is rubbish, it's going to affect me. If I'm not careful, I'm not strong enough, I'll probably go at night and put my head down on a pillow. I'll be thinking, oh man, these guys really didn't like me. I'll probably cry or something. Because that's how it can affect you. It can, psychologically. So imagine these sisters and these brothers are listening to the peers around them tell them, no, this and that. It's going to make them think and feel like I'm inferior. I'm losing out on something. And to be frank about this, it's more on the sister side than on the brothers, right? Because we're kind of already in the system. It's kind of like that's just the way it's been for thousands of years. We've been there. We're from outside, from the streets. But it's the first time, really, in humanity where there's been a huge push for women to leave their nest and to come into our territory. It's always been, even throughout different religions. Forget about this Wakanda and whatever they say, these women were, that's rubbish. Throughout the centuries, there's been a culture of who does what. Okay? Even anthropologists talk about back in the days, right? Right? Guys going out, hunting, this and that. You got lions, tigers, whatnot, right? People might not come back home, right? And when one of the guys was saying, now when it's nice and there's air conditioning homes and Uber and all that, now the sisters are coming, we're out on the streets as well. It's like, wait, it's already been, the work's been done, right? And I'm not trying to, but it is like how it is. So if you look at even economically speaking, who's being targeted the most? It's women. The ulama say that the corruption of the woman equals to the corruption of society. Why? Because they're the nurturers. And I always tell the sisters, please, I know some of them are fuming now and upset. Maybe, I don't know, usually they are. I hope not. Maybe your communities, but sometimes they wait for me outside, It's like but the reality is that they are targeting them. Okay, and I'll give you the evidence. Very clear. We have to be evidence-based. Purchasing power is with women. Okay? Haya and the gate to reproduction is with women. Selection is with women. Nurturing of the future generation, in the end, the quantity, the time spent, and the greatest effect is with women. So if I may, a corporate psychologist who's deciding on to sell a new product, if I'm gonna bet my best bucks on, would be on women. Look at them. Just go to the mall. Do you see like guys flexing their muscles or really too much in products? Bro, they want to sell a tire or shampoo, whatever. It's always about women. You look in the mirror when you pass by, right? What is it called? Window shopping. It's mostly women. You walk into a store. There's a little section there in TK Maxx or whatever for men, and the rest is for women. Okay? Most likely it's, I don't know, women probably buy our clothes as well. For many men is the, right? So they are targeting. They are really, really targeting our sisters, because if they break, right, then the family breaks. I mean, the men, of course, we should hold the fort, but they know that with men, we're a bit stubborn. You might get a few of us, make us weak here and there, but in the end, men are still going to push back. They've always done it. Yes, we are weak, no doubt. Yes, we cannot compare to our fathers, nor can you compare us to our grandfathers. So your grandfather would have had, imagine this, your grandfather in the 50s would have had almost twice your testosterone level. Almost twice your testosterone that you have today at the age of 35, 40. He at 50 would have probably had twice your testosterone level. So yes, they're hitting us hard, but they're hitting the sisters harder. Okay? So I think with young men and women, we need to teach them, be proud of what you are first, what you are, okay, what Allah has created to be, then who you are and what He has given you as a role. Learn that, know that you're gonna synergize with someone, perfect that position, be the best at it, and know that is one of the most amazing positions in this world, and that is to nurture human souls. It's an honor that women should take upon themselves to be feminine, to leave the masculine frame, because they're not men. Leave it. It's not. It's a big turnoff. Doesn't do you well. And to perfect your femininity according to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the examples of the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, and to study that. You find sisters learning like really deep things, mashallah. Wallah, we should go to fiqh of femininity. Like sisters should teach that. Should look at Khadija radiallahu anha, Fatima. They'll be like, yeah, but they did certain things, no doubt. Yes, they did, 100%. But they're still women. They were always supporting. They were never in the front. They were never spearheading all these things that are very different and changes you. It's rough. It's not befitting a flower to be surrounded by thorns. We men, we're rough. That's how Allah has created us, right? We can deal with the thorns, with the cuts and the bruises, and we can move. Actually, with men, those scars become lessons. It makes you more experienced. Okay, it gives you, even subhanAllah, Allah, it's amazing. Like you cannot escape your biology. You cannot escape your fitrah. Cannot. No matter how much you try to, you can put as much makeup, on something. It's still gonna be something behind. You take it off and it's right. So you cannot change the fitrah, right? On a man, the roughness and the scars and all that, it's equals to experience. Okay, it equals to strength and lessons. On a woman, it equals to trauma and damage. Right? That's why women are always, their prettiness and their beauty, internal and external, is value. It's always been. Right? Allah tells us, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. First thing. Right? That's their value. And we protect it. That's why the hijab was given to women, not to men. Imagine all of us would have to wear hijab. Yeah? People will say the beard is the hijab of the men. It's not, bro. The beard is the sunnah of all the prophets, the wajib actually, that shows their manhood and their strength, that they're men. رِجَالٌ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بِعَ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Real men. So, and subhanAllah, there's studies that show that women, they like rough men. It's attractive when there's a scar on a man, when he's been through stuff. It's always looked at as an experience and value, not the other way around. You cannot escape that. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. As simple as put as possible. Cannot escape it. Cannot, right? The girls will be like, yeah, I like when he's men, he's rough, you know. And when we men, we like it when they're soft and nice and feminine. And we're opposite, and it's about being together. So we need to learn this and that. We need to be proud. And it starts there. I didn't even get into the marriage part. I didn't even get into because we need to start from before. We need to educate our communities, our young brothers and sisters, to love being a man. Like, you have to love being a man. Be proud of being a man, and be proud of being a woman. It's a beautiful thing. People think that we hate women. I was reading some, the Arabs and the Muslims hate. There was an article that they publicized that they hate women. What are you talking about? We love women. The Prophet ﷺ himself said, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاء. It has been made beloved to me from your dunya, perfume and women. He loves. Of course we do. That's why we protect them. That's why we love them. That's why we're willing to die for them. Isn't it? Like a real man is going to, I don't think anyone is going to take a second thought about dying for his family. No one. You can be the least trained person in martial art. It doesn't matter, bro. You'll use your body to to jump on someone. It doesn't matter. Because that's how we're built. There was a Turkish brother who went around and he did a study, a survey. It was funny. You can actually find it. One of those social experiments. He went to young girls, older girls, whatever. And he said, if the Ripper comes, and who would you like him to take? You or your husband? He said, my husband. All of them said, my husband. I said, well, without a fail, all of them said, why would I die? Of course, my husband. Then he went to the men. From boys to men, old men. They said, me. I'll die. I'll do anything. She should live. This is the way it is. Allah created us like that. And indeed, they should live and to take care of the children, and we will sacrifice ourselves. So don't for 1 second feel that, we hate women or Islam puts women down or this or that. No, we don't want to put them down. We want to put them in their place. That's just the way it is. Where they should be, where Allah put them. No, that's it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to understand and carry this message. And there's changes taking place. Like the non-Muslims are realizing. I was talking to my brother. He's like, I was shocking. I was expecting him to be woke, he was very, very on. Right? And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to achieve what He has decreed in the end, The question is whether we're going to be with it or not. That's our choice. Now, barakallahu feekum. We have time, or that's it, right? If there's any few questions we can take. If not, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless everyone.
What first steps can you take towards pushing back?
I think with husband and wife, whatever we have right now, our families or whatever situation we're in, and I know that there are many divorces in our community. There's a lot of single fathers and a lot of single mothers. I think if you have children under your care, start talking to them. Start raising awareness. If you have men, I have clients, and we have in our community, we deal with a lot of these cases. We've had children's services being involved, taking children away, families are split. If you're a single father who's raising boys, then invest in them. Put them in martial arts. Put them in just like places where they teach them tarbiyah. Okay, and not just weak stuff. Like get them to do boy stuff. Like I know the brothers at the Quran Center, they were doing something about like planning for the future, different careers, right? They have different work that they're doing. I think there's some community work being done here. Get the kids, get the boys involved to do manly stuff and be an example for them. Show them, teach them. Don't like sheltering. Like to what extent can you shelter? Teach them that this is how it is. This is life. It's rough. And if you're a father who has girls, then subhanAllah, it's tough. But I think that love and protection, like you need to express that to themselves. Don't make them, or if you don't, you don't have boys, you have girls. Don't try to, like some fathers from certain communities, if they have only girls, they're like their girls will come out like boys because it's almost like they wanted to have boys and they deal with them like boys. Don't deal with them like boys. A girl is not like that. You need to, even as a man, you can. That's the question I get a lot. Like, can I raise my daughters? Yes, you can. Because the Prophet ﷺ dealt with young little girls and children. And he had a very different approach with boys and girls. And if you're a single mother who's raising boys, can you raise men as a woman? It's not easy, but there are possibilities. You can again teach them how to be men by showing them manly examples. So one mistake that sisters do is they go to the masjid and they'll have their boys, like their young boys, like 5, 6, 7, praying with the girls. And I remember seeing this sometimes. Like one time I walked in, and in some Arab countries, like there's no separation like this. It'll be like the ladies at the back, and I remember like walking, I would hear a mother, "روح صلي مع الرجال," go pray with the men. She was telling her son, like "روح صلي مع الرجال," she was so like, and the boy, just little kid, came and we just picked him. He just put, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, neck to us, and you could see like his demeanor changed, like his back. He was like so proud of himself when he finished, because that mother understood. I'm going to take him to the masjid. I'm going to show him some men. I'm not a man. Problem is with a lot of sisters, when they raise boys, they become men themselves, the women. And then they'll say like, what can I do? I'm a single mother. I have to be manly. No, still stay in your feminine frame. Take your boy to men. Let them see men. And if you're a woman, single woman who's raising girls, then the bitterness of what happened with your husband, don't project that onto your girls. Don't let them feel that all the men are the same. Because maybe your husband was not wrong or something. Maybe just there was a disagreement or problems. And people divorce, right? That's just the way it happened. Like Zubair and Asma, they divorced. Great Sahabi, both of them, radiallahu anh, they couldn't make it work out. Okay, that doesn't mean now that you're going to, indoctrinate your girls to hate men. And to be like, so you can teach your women, the girls, to be nice and soft like you. So it is possible, but it does take a village to raise children, right? Like the communities have to be united. Because if there are single women, they can see men. But if they're men who are single, they can take their girls to like women halaqas and, women circles. Let them be with the women, man. You know what I mean? So I think together we can compensate for the things that we're lacking. And that's the whole concept of the ummah. No.
You talked about how, like our grandfathers, they had twice the testosterone levels as us. How could we increase our testosterone levels?
So a lot of it has to deal with like our lifestyle. So they didn't like take testosterone replacement therapy. There was no TRT back then, but what they did is their environment was very active. They would, like for example, if you walk a lot, you exercise. Like a lot of them didn't go to a gym and lift weights. But again, they had to walk, they had to like do manual labor, they were in the field. They're connected to nature, to the earth. Everything affects you, subhanAllah. From the bottle of water that you drink, this plastic, to, how you sleep and the comfort they live and the food, everything affects you. Everything. So because their environment was different, they had different lifestyle. So it was very natural for them to have that. It was less pollutants. It was a bit more, more natural. So today we can still do a lot with the environment that we are within. So definitely, like for men, I always encourage like workouts. Okay, I always believe that men should know how to fight. Like if you were to measure testosterone level, like before training, like for example MMA, and after, like after you got into a sparring match, there will be a difference, right? It's the way your body reacts, your adrenaline, everything gets hyped up. It'll be a big difference, right? So yeah, be active. Look at your food, vitamins, right? There's a lot of like natural vitamins now that can boost testosterone, and it's important. Be careful of like all the rubbish that they sell on, in the gyms and all that. Like my brother died from that. He was a trainer, and he was doing steroids, right, for testosterone to build muscle, and his heart failed. So you got to be careful with that. There's natural ways to boost up. It's lifestyle changes. Right? We sit down too much. We're in the car driving, stuck in traffic too much. Right? We're quite docile in our lifestyles. Something we can control. No.
Can I ask one question? I feel the ambition is lacking in the youth nowadays. So if we jump ahead to marriage, in my extended family in London, some of the girls are having problems finding husbands because the husbands expect the women to work. Therefore, their salary aspirations are low. They're not trying hard enough to get the kind of job that supports the women. And I'm finding this more common.
Right.
Men are expecting their women to work as well.
SubhanAllah. It's a problem. I was discussing that with my brother as well. In the end, if men are expecting their wives to work, and I know that a lot of men have made the argument, like, look, it's a tough environment, like we need a two-salary, two-income household, and so on and so forth. We have to pay bills and whatnot. Okay, I understand, but it's at the expense of something. Like, if you take something, you're going to give something. It's just the way it works. So the brothers who are expecting their wives to work, like that's a requirement before marriage, I think they're very wrong. Because in the end, you want to be the qawwam, so you're going to be requesting your rights. You want to be the leader, but then you want her to work as well, and you want her to raise the children. There's all these things, and trust me, she's going to get upset. She's not going to be able to do all that. So I would say to sisters who are telling you that, or who are looking to get married, and they see a guy and they says, well, my requirement is that you work, it's a red flag. Don't go for that guy. Don't go for that man. Because there's men who are struggling to keep their wives at home. So I think there's a lot of men who are, that's like their wish, right? Like they want their wives to stay at home, and they're fighting to trying to convince them to stay at home. And then you have men who are telling you, I'm not going to marry you unless you go to work. And the same men, I tell men who think like that, I said, brother, I'm telling you, within a year of marriage or less, you're going to change your mind. Right? And why? Because once you become intimate with a woman, your emotions are different now. Your jealousy comes out, your ghira comes out. So now, it might be appealing now because you're just talking to her and, hey, whatever, okay, she's nice. Yeah, you should work. But then, once you marry her, now you're like, your mind's like, oh, wait, you're going to be out for 8 hours? And there's Tony and Jimmy and Muhammad and Ahmed in your office, and they're spending 8 hours with you, and I barely see you. What things change, man. And now the brother gets all weird and gets upset, and they start fighting. And what's she gonna say? You're the one who told me to work. Now you change your mind. You allowed me. You pushed me. It's not fair. Now you're telling me like this, and you're acting all weird and jealous and whatnot. Because guys, when they're jealous, it's a different story, man. It's a different story. Right? Your wife like puts on some makeup, gets ready and nice, and just hits you in the morning like, who are you getting nice for? Well, you have Tony in your... you keep talking about Tony all the time. He's funny, he's this and that. The guys really lose it. I deal with these cases. So think twice, before doing that.